I wish we were here to tell you that we have found Madeline, but we have not found her. Last night, detectives from the Kissimmee Police Department met with Madeline's mother, and they had to tell her the very devastating news that although we have not found Madeline, we are now confident that she is dead.
Does your role in her life lead this to happen? I'll be honest. Yes. Since she was a child, since her victimization started, it occurred under your roof and you acted like it didn't exist.
Sunday, February 25th, 2024. It was supposed to be a perfect day. Madeline Soto had just turned 13. She spent the afternoon at her grandparents' home in Central Florida. There were balloons, laughter, and for a few hours it felt like things were finally okay. But even as she smiled and danced through the party, something was missing. Her mom wasn't there. Jennifer had just started a new job and couldn't make it. Her longtime boyfriend, Stefan Stearns, didn't show either. Maddie's grandparents didn't want him around. They never liked him, never trusted him. Still, Maddie tried to keep her spirits high. She loved Stefan more than most people knew. She texted him constantly, called him her safe space. His absence stung more than she let on. That night after the party ended and she was dropped back home, Jennifer finally came through the door. It was just after 11. She only stayed a few minutes. Maddie lit up the second she saw her. She started describing every little detail of the day like a kid desperate for connection. But her mom was tired. "We'll talk tomorrow after school," she said. Or at least that's what she thought. Then came the bedtime routine. Maddie went upstairs. Not to her own room, but to the one she'd grown used to sharing. For years, she had slept between her mother and Stefan. But lately, Jennifer had moved out of that room, choosing the downstairs couch instead. Now it was just Maddie and Stefan. The next morning, Stefan offered to drop her off at school. It seemed ordinary. He came back home later, saying he had errands to run. Jennifer was there when he returned. She mentioned that Maddie had forgotten her phone. They talked about how forgetful she had become since stopping her ADHD treatment. Jennifer was starting to second-guess that decision. By 2:30 that afternoon, Jennifer was waiting at the school pickup line. She was first in line. Engine running. Eyes scanning the crowd. But Maddie never came out. 5 minutes passed. The cars behind her started honking. She was blocking traffic. Confused, she reached for her phone to call Maddie, then froze. The phone was still at home. She pulled over and called the school. They told her that she didn't come in today. She wasn't here at all, and in that moment, everything changed. This wasn't just a missing student. It was the start of something bigger. A nightmare that would ripple through Florida and leave one question echoing across the state. What really happened to Madeline Soto? The first person Jennifer called wasn't the school or the police. It was Stefan. After all, he was the last one who saw Maddie that morning. He was supposed to take her to school. But what he told Jennifer changed everything. He hadn't dropped her off at the school entrance. He let her out by the church next door. He said Maddie was embarrassed to be seen with him. She didn't want her friends to see her getting out of his beat-up car. So he agreed to leave her on the sidewalk across from Peace Church around 8 a.m. She would walk the rest of the way. It meant Maddie had been missing for over 7 hours before anyone noticed. Panic spread fast. Family members rushed to the scene. Friends started calling each other. They gathered at Maddie's grandmother's insurance office down the street from the school. That's where they made the call.
And the child that you're trying to report missing, are you calling on behalf of the parent?
Yes, on behalf of the mother.
Okay. And then, so, ma'am, I just want to confirm, though, was she last seen from this address? Is this where you guys last saw her?
No. She was last seen at the church next to Hunters Creek Middle School. I think it's called Peace Church. I'm not sure of the exact address.
Does she have a cell phone that she might keep on her person?
She doesn't. She had one, but she left it at home conveniently today.
Okay.
Issue. We have a missing child since this morning. We already called 3 times. Yes, ma'am. I see it. Just waiting for a deputy to respond.
You're waiting for a deputy to respond?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long more do we need to wait? It's a child missing.
I understand that, ma'am, but I'm just not able to give out ETA. I don't know when they'll be there.
So how long do we need to wait? This
Ma'am,
is an emergency.
Ma'am, we are very busy in the area. Look, I understand. They'll be there as soon as they can, okay?
By 8 p.m., the police finally arrived at the insurance office. That's where Maddie's grandmother worked. Jennifer was there. So was Stefan. Friends stood by quietly. The air was heavy. There were too many unknowns and too little time. The officers walked in calm and composed. To them it seemed routine. A missing girl. An anxious mother. A boyfriend offering details. It didn't raise red flags. Not yet. But what they didn't know was this. The answers Jennifer was about to give would crack open a door to something far worse than a disappearance. Because what started as a search for a young girl was about to expose a tragedy that had been hidden in plain sight. And the first clue was already sitting right there in her story.
Madeline Soto, age 13. I'm trying to get a clothing description now. What was she last seen wearing?
Green hoodie.
Green hoodie.
White Crocs.
White Crocs.
Either blue or black pants.
I think black shorts.
Black shorts?
Yeah.
Black shorts?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Stefan was telling police what Maddie was wearing that morning. He mentioned pants, but Jennifer cut in quickly. She was wearing black shorts. It was a small correction, the kind any mother might make. But for detectives, it would later become something else entirely. Because if Jennifer knew what Maddie was wearing that morning, that meant she saw her. That meant she was awake. But later, under pressure, Jennifer would admit something completely different. She didn't see Maddie that morning. In fact, she said she didn't even wake up until after 9 a.m. So how did she know what her daughter was wearing? It was the first crack in her version of events, and the start of something the detectives couldn't ignore. The search began immediately. Officers were told to retrace every step. But not just from the moment Maddie was supposedly dropped off. They needed to go back further. All the way to the beginning of that day. To the moment Stefan said he woke up. According to him, he got up around 7. Maddie was up by 7:30. She got dressed. They got in his car, a silver 2010 Lincoln. She looked tired in the passenger seat, barely awake. They talked about getting breakfast. He suggested McDonald's. She agreed. But halfway there, she changed her mind. Told him to skip it and just drop her near the school. So he left her at the church nearby. Then he drove off. He claimed he went to a vape shop but found it closed. Said he returned home for a while after that. The detectives had questions. Not about what Stefan said, but about where exactly he left Maddie. So they took him back to the scene. Right next to Peace Church. They wanted him to point out the exact spot where he said she stepped out of his car. Because in cases like this, the smallest detail can become the turning point. The first move detectives made was simple. Check the cameras. There was one mounted on the front of Peace Church facing exactly where Stefan claimed to have stopped. If Maddie had been dropped there, it would be on that tape. The church handed over the footage without hesitation, and just like Stefan described, a vehicle pulled up. A figure stepped out. Hoodie. Backpack. The person headed toward the school on foot. So far it lined up. But then someone noticed it. The car. It wasn't silver. It was blue. That was impossible. Stefan drove a silver 2010 Lincoln. The car in the footage was clearly a different make and color. No amount of blur could explain that away. Which meant one thing. The person caught on camera wasn't Maddie. It was someone else entirely. So where was Maddie? And more urgently, where was Stefan's car? Had the camera just missed him? Or had he never been there in the first place? Detectives expanded the search. They pulled traffic footage from every angle around the school and surrounding roads. That's when it happened. At 8:10 a.m., Stefan's Lincoln appeared. It was heading in the right direction. moving toward the church, toward the school. But then, it turned. The car made a sudden shift and went the other way. Southbound. Away from the church. Away from the school. Away from everything he had told them. He never reached the drop-off spot.
Why is your car seen going southbound at 8:10? Your car is seen going southbound at this intersection. So meaning going toward Kissimmee.
I had forgotten something. I had forgotten my gate clicker. I'm sorry. I forgot. I had gone back to the house real quick after we left because I forgot my gate clicker. I actually had to go through the front gate and use my parking pass to grab my clicker. So it was the wrong time. I'm sorry. Like I said, I was guesstimating these times. I'm not a morning person.
The moment Stefan's story began to fall apart was the moment detectives stopped believing it. The very next day after Maddie was reported missing, investigators made a decision. No more listening. No more assumptions. They would trace every single step Stefan took. But this time they weren't starting at the church. They were starting at his front door. And what they found shattered the timeline completely. 7:30 a.m. Stefan wasn't home. Security footage showed him walking out of the apartment complex on foot. No car, no backpack, just him, carrying a large white trash bag. He headed toward the dumpster. He tossed it in. Then he returned to his silver Lincoln. And that's when everything changed. Maddie was in the car, not beside him, not awake, not talking. She was slumped unnaturally in the passenger seat, her head tilted to the side, motionless. She was wearing a green hoodie. 8:10 a.m. His car appeared again on traffic cameras. Instead of heading toward the church like he claimed, he turned and drove the opposite way, southbound, away from Maddie's school. He didn't stop, but detectives did. They followed every movement from that point on. He drove past a vape shop, just like he said in his statement, but he never went inside. He circled the area, then returned home. Maddie was still beside him. He stayed in the apartment for about an hour. Then the car moved again. He drove toward a local game shop called House Rules. Surveillance cameras caught his car circling the lot, but he never went in. Just before noon, his car entered the parking garage of a Holiday Inn. This time, cameras caught more than movement. They showed Stefan opening the passenger side door, lifting a heavy object wrapped in cloth or fabric, dragging it toward the trunk. He opened it, placed the bundle inside, closed it, and drove away. He was no longer driving with her in the front seat. From there, he headed toward the back roads, Hickory Tree Road, Old Canoe Creek, eventually toward US 192, a quiet rural stretch where few cameras existed and even fewer people watched. By 4 p.m., he returned home. But before heading back inside, he made another trip to the dumpster. Another bag. Another secret. By now, detectives were certain. Maddie had never been dropped off at school. She had never walked into that church lot. She had never even left the apartment complex alive. And now every answer raised darker questions. Why would Stefan do this to the girl who trusted him more than anyone? Why did Jennifer claim to see her daughter that morning, when it was becoming clear that wasn't even possible? And during the long stretch when Stefan disappeared from every camera in the city, where did he go? Or more hauntingly, where did he leave Maddie? There was only one place left that could hold those answers. The home they all shared. The last place Maddie Soto was ever truly seen. While investigators were quietly preparing search warrants for the apartment and both phones, Jennifer Soto stepped into the public spotlight. She stood on local news, pleading for help to find her daughter. Her voice cracked. Her eyes looked hollow. And next to her, like a grieving stepfather, stood Stefan Stearns, tears in his eyes. He spoke softly. He said he blamed himself for letting Maddie walk away that morning. He said he should have waited. He said he just wanted her to come home. Viewers believed him. But the police weren't watching the interview. They were watching the walls close in. Search teams had already been sweeping the woods surrounding the school. Maddie had told friends that when she turned 13, she wanted to run away, build a home in the forest, live alone. She also told them she couldn't stand being home. She said her mom was unpredictable, said they fought all the time, said she felt trapped. So at first, the runaway theory made sense, until it didn't. Because just days after the cameras aired their tearful pleas, Jennifer and Stefan were standing on their front step, facing officers with a signed search warrant. Not just for the apartment, for their phones too. Jennifer didn't argue. She didn't ask why. She simply handed over the keys, stepped outside, and left with Stefan and his parents. They checked into a hotel that same night. Detectives entered the apartment alone. What they found inside wasn't just suspicious. It was disturbing. First, the layout. Maddie didn't have a room. She had a small bed placed behind a see-through partition in the corner of the living room. No walls, no door, no privacy. As if it wasn't a bedroom, it was a setup. And then came the laundry basket. It was next to Maddie's bed. In it, something that shouldn't have been there. A pair of men's underwear. Not just any underwear. Why was it in her laundry? Why was it even near her bed? Detectives moved to the master bedroom. Jennifer and Stefan's shared space. The bed was made. 3 pillows, 1 on each side, 1 in the middle. Someone had been sleeping between them. That raised too many questions. At that point, the detectives were convinced that if this house has a title, it will be the No Boundaries House. Just when investigators thought they'd seen the worst that apartment had to offer, they opened a drawer. Inside, tucked beneath a pile of loose papers, one detective pulled out a small notebook. The handwriting was Jennifer's, each line marking something private. At first glance, it looked like a personal health log, but it wasn't hers. It was her daughter's. Jennifer had been tracking Maddie's menstrual cycle by hand, and it didn't stop there. Further into the apartment, stuffed into the bathroom cabinet beneath the sink, investigators found multiple pregnancy tests. No one had seen this coming. The question wasn't just why they were there. It was who they belonged to. Were they Jennifer's? Or were they Maddie's? And why would a mother be quietly recording the reproductive cycle of her 13-year-old child in secret? No one wanted to say it out loud. But in that moment, everyone in the room was thinking the same thing. What exactly had Jennifer Soto been protecting? But still, they didn't find any hard evidence. But this won't last for long because evidence they were looking for wasn't inside the home. It was inside the dumpster. Detectives had no choice left. With no body, they couldn't move forward. But they had something else. Trash. Specifically, the white bag Stefan was seen dumping the morning Maddie vanished. Officers searched through piles of garbage for hours. Then they found it. Inside the bag was Maddie's school backpack, still zipped, still intact. Inside, her school ID, her white Crocs, her personal belongings. There was something else too, a piece of shredded tire. That detail, seemingly random, would become critical later. Right now, though, investigators had a clearer picture than ever. Stefan was connected to Maddie's disappearance, but not her final moment. And until a body was found, they couldn't make a formal charge. So the focus shifted again. Back to the phones. The tech team was already working to recover data from Stefan's mobile. He had tried to wipe it clean, twice, before handing it over. Full factory resets. No history. No photos. But Stefan didn't know one thing. His device was still connected to his Google account. And the moment investigators logged into his cloud drive, they found everything. Thousands of files, private images, downloads. Most disturbingly, hundreds of highly inappropriate photos involving minors. Some of them included Maddie. The metadata showed timestamps going back more than 3 years. This wasn't something that just happened. It had been happening for a long time. At that point, Stefan wasn't just a suspect. He was something else entirely. The next morning, detectives contacted Stefan's father. They asked him to bring his son in, and that's when another piece of the puzzle fell into place. Stefan's dad told them something strange. The night before, after they'd checked into a hotel, Stefan had borrowed his car, said he needed air. He was gone for over 4 hours. His father assumed he was grieving, but detectives traced the car on traffic cameras. Stefan hadn't gone driving to mourn. He had driven straight to his parents' house to connect to their Wi-Fi. He used that internet access to try wiping his Google account remotely, to delete the very files detectives had already seen. But it was too late. The warrant had already copied everything. Stefan was called in for questioning. While he sat in the interview room, silent, avoiding eye contact, another conversation was happening elsewhere. Detectives met with Jennifer. They laid it out. The recovered photos, the timeline, the digital evidence. They told her who Stefan really was. She looked shocked, but not devastated. Not like a mother who had just learned what had been happening to her daughter. Detectives waited, looked for emotion, for anger, for horror. It never fully came. And then came the final twist. Shortly after being interviewed by police, Jennifer made a call. She didn't call a friend. She called Stefan's father and told him to hire a lawyer for his son. That moment stopped detectives cold. Because what kind of mother, after hearing that her own daughter had been hurt like this, would take the side of the man responsible? But for now, one thing mattered most. Where was Maddie? And Stefan Stearns was the only one who knew.
Do you have any idea where she may be?
No.
None whatsoever.
No.
What are the sleeping arrangements?
He sleeps in.
Okay. Did she sleep in her bed Sunday night?
No. I was just back. I'd been away for a couple months. Be in the same bed together, so.
The interrogation didn't start with accusations. It started with a single question. Did you have any idea where is Maddie? Stefan looked down, paused, then shook his head. I don't know. Exactly what they expected. So detectives changed course. They didn't confront him. Not yet. They walked him back through the house, through the routines, the sleeping arrangements, who slept where, who woke up first, what Maddie had for breakfast, what they talked about in the car. They asked calmly, casually, but with every word Stefan spoke, the trap was tightening. Because the officers already knew the answers. They had video, cell data, metadata, digital files, traffic cams. Every move Stefan made in the 48 hours surrounding Maddie's disappearance was mapped. This wasn't a conversation. It was a test. Then came the question that mattered most. Tell us about that morning. After you left the house. After the vape shop. What road did you take? He looked up. Said it without thinking. US 192. I had a tire issue. I pulled over to change it.
Where'd you get a flat at?
Somewhere along 192.
192 is a big road.
It is, and honestly, it all looks the same to me. So, I've been asked, do you remember what plaza you were next to, what color, and I'm ADD as it is, and I was in a medicated fog for the better part of a week.
That road again. The same road he was caught turning onto. The same road where his car disappeared from traffic cameras for almost an hour. A stretch of highway that cut through a wooded area with barely any surveillance. But now they knew something else. Stefan had a pattern. He didn't tell full lies. He told partial truths. He always gave just enough to sound honest, but never enough to give himself away. And if he admitted to stopping on US 192, then something happened there. Something he didn't want to explain. So detectives marked it. That road wasn't just part of the route. It was part of the answer. The hours dragged. Stefan sat in the interview room like a man clinging to a story that was already collapsing. He talked, but never enough. Always circling the truth, never touching it. Detectives weren't surprised. They'd seen his type before, the kind that never cracks, because he thinks silence is power. But this time, power wasn't on his side. They had what they needed. Everything he tried to hide behind passwords and factory resets had already been recovered. So after hours of giving him the rope, detectives stopped waiting for the truth. It was time to tell him how this ends.
Okay. What do you think was on the phone?
Text messages. Emails. Phone stuff.
Pictures?
Oh, yeah.
What kind of pictures were on there?
Training card pictures. Lightsaber pictures. Disney pictures.
You have a Google account?
Yeah.
Do you save pictures to your Google account?
Sometimes.
Or is it automatically? I know sometimes phones sync to a cloud and...
Yeah, I think it backs up to Google.
Here's where I'm going to be brutally honest with you. There's your phone. And I'm pretty sure you know what some of those pictures are about. You're a very intelligent person. And I don't want you to discredit yourself by saying you don't know about all the pictures that are on your phone. You understand what I'm saying? So do you want to add to the list of pictures?
No. Should I be talking with a lawyer right now?
I can't answer that question. My sole purpose right now is to see if I can find, and I'm really hoping you can help me.
Okay. Well, I'd like to try to help, but I feel like I should probably have a lawyer present at this point.
So you're wanting an attorney?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. That can happen. I want to let you know you're not free to leave. You're being detained, okay? Do you want to know what you're being detained for? Capital sexual battery and possession of child pornography.
With Stefan in custody, the silence was locked in. Detectives knew he wasn't going to speak again, but they were out of time. Every hour that passed meant more evidence lost to weather, to wildlife, to decay. If they waited too long, they might never know how she died, or why. So they had two paths. The first, scour every mile of US 192, the long, empty stretch Stefan claimed to have driven. But that would take days, maybe weeks, and the clock was already against them. The second, talk to the only person left who might hold a piece of the truth, Jennifer Soto, the mother, the woman who'd been calm when she shouldn't have been, the woman who knew what her daughter was wearing, without seeing her, the woman who told Stefan's father to call a lawyer before she ever cried for justice. From the moment Maddie disappeared, her behavior raised questions. Now it was time to get answers. When she sat down in the interview room, detectives didn't push her. They asked the same questions Stefan had been asked. Same topics. Same timeline. Same morning. But they weren't listening for the facts. They were listening for something else. Whose side was she really on? Was she here to fight for her daughter? To help bring her home? To get justice for what had been done? Or was she still protecting Stefan? Still trying to preserve a story that never made sense? This wasn't just an interview anymore. This was the moment Jennifer Soto had to choose a side.
Like, you need to call your dad, and I think we need to get you a lawyer. I feel like they're focusing on the wrong person, and he kept saying the same thing. He kept repeating what I was repeating. That they're focusing on the wrong person. They're wasting time.
How did he feel when you said he needs a lawyer?
He didn't believe me. Like, when I told him, like, don't you see forensics is closing down the house? They know something, or there's something, like, they know something. Something's happening. They wouldn't be locking down the house this way if they didn't have suspicions of something. But I wasn't thinking, I don't know why I wasn't thinking him. Like, I was just like, no, they've got the wrong guy.
The police have showed you their hand. They said, Stefan, we want your phone. Stefan, we want to talk to you. We're going to lock down your residence. You can't go back inside. Me? I don't care if it's the love of my life sitting next to me. I don't care if it's maternal grandma. If the police come and take my mom's phone and my son's disappearance, I'm not going to offer my mom a lawyer. That's nuts to me. That to me shows you prioritizing Stefan. Because at that point you became more worried about him being falsely accused than any. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Whether or not that's what you felt, does that make sense? People having lawyers is their constitutional right. That is a thing that everybody is afforded. But for somebody who's going through what you are going through, to offer him a lawyer leads me to believe that there may have been a conversation, there may have been knowledge, or there may have been some inclination that you had, whether it be his involvement, her location, or something to where in your mind there's guilt.
I promise you.
Because you offering him a lawyer is very weird.
I know. That was still me under the assumption that I think at one point you guys interviewed me, and when you guys showed me the picture of her, I believed the sexual stuff, but I didn't want to believe that he had done anything evil to her. I'm like, no, what if he did this stuff fine, but what if she's still missing out there? What if somebody took her? I still wanted to believe I believed him. I believed his whole story. So I was just like, I kept repeating that part. I'm just like, what if she did get dropped off? What if she got abducted? What if she's missing? But that was me assuming that you guys had the wrong guy. I wanted to think he was the good guy still, but clearly he's not. After everything you guys have told me and have shown me, I know he's the worst person on this face of the earth.
You know that now. We know he's a piece of shit now.
No.
But you didn't know that then.
I didn't.
Then you offered a guy who the police suspected of kidnapping, abducting, assisting the disappearance, offered him a lawyer. And then we don't have to roundtable that. You went back to what you just said is the sex stuff is fine.
It's not fine. If I knew anything, I promise you, I would tell you. Like, I am willing to take a lie detector test, whatever the fuck you want, but I don't know anything. He's never mentioned anything. I've never seen any signs. I tried watching her like a hawk. I thought I was doing a good job, but I wasn't. I was oblivious to everything. 4 years?
Minimum. That's just how that far back the cloud goes. And I find it hard to believe for me that you were so worried about how many pills she took at night, but not where she slept or what relationship she was. His interest in her.
I thought we were all safe. I thought because that he hadn't shown me anything so far, like everything seems fine. Like he seemed like he treated her like
he treats you. In his mind, she didn't die naturally. She didn't overdose. She didn't have a heart attack. We circled murder on Monday. Something had to cause that. He's been having unrestricted sexual activity for a long time. He's getting what he wants from her, probably from you, and who knows whoever else, right? So it's not like he woke up or went to bed Sunday and he was like, you know what? I'm done with this, but I'm going to kill her. Something happened. People don't just wake up and like, you know what? They leave people. They break up with people. But usually things cause people to snap. Now what? You know what? I'm in trouble. Or I feel like I'm going to... Or him being... Now, we can go even worse. She's pregnant.
That's what questions last night led me to believe. When we started talking about her period.
I was told that her and her friend, and granted, I'm male, never had a period, but that somebody found it weird that they were no longer on the same cycle. Could be different because she's a teenage girl, Could be that she missed her period. Have you ever found a pregnancy test at home that wasn't yours?
I have 2 underneath the bathroom sink, but I haven't seen if they're still there or not.
What do you think made him snap?
I don't know. Theories, I keep hearing
Tell me your theories, because here's the deal. We don't go home until she's found.
No, I know.
So what are your theories?
What I've heard is, what if she upset him and threatened to tell me and say that she was going to tell me and he needed to shut that down? That's the only thing.
What do you think?
I believe. I don't want to believe he killed her. But when you guys are telling me he must have killed her Sunday night and snuck her body out in the morning.
But outside of you reporting her missing, and I may be wrong, I haven't been involved in all aspects of it, but you have not shown me one bit that you prioritize her over him. And that sucks. Not because we're working our asses off for your family, not because we have people out there sweating their asses off for your family, but because I feel like all I care about is your care is to make sure Stefan doesn't get held accountable.
Oh, I don't care anymore.
Anymore? Because I'm not being nice.
No.
But up until Thursday, it was okay that she gave him no big deal. Get a lawyer.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't okay. I saw that and I was in shock. And I don't know why my first reaction was to tell him to get a lawyer, but I saw that and I was in shock and I was just like, I don't know what to believe. I don't know what to believe.
It's easy to believe it now. We showed you pictures of it. You can't deny it anymore. The sex was okay. The murder's not. At least that makes sense.
No, that's okay.
I want to know what it is. And not because I think you're a bad parent, not because I think you're a bad person. Dead or alive, she's missing. Her body is out there, and her body needs to be recovered so she can have a proper burial, a proper funeral. She needs to be laid to rest. Your family needs to be able to mourn her, and we need that information. That is life. That is not life of the law. That's not life of the sheriff's office. That is common decency. That is what she deserves. That is what you deserve. That is what your family deserves.
3 full hours. That's how long Jennifer Soto sat across from detectives. By the end, investigators were sure of one thing. Jennifer didn't know where Maddie's body was. But she knew more than she said. A lot more. Maybe not the location, but definitely the signs, the secrets, the silence that comes only from someone who's already accepted what happened, without admitting it. While that interview wrapped up quietly, outside the station, everything was about to change. Police officially named Stefan Stearns as the prime suspect in Maddie Soto's disappearance. They told the public he was believed to have driven along US 192 on the morning Maddie vanished. And they asked for something very specific. If you live near this area and saw anything unusual that day, anything at all, come forward. It didn't take long. A man called in. Said he wasn't sure if it mattered, but on Monday morning, just off the side of US 192, he saw something strange. A silver car. A man changing a tire. Right beside a remote farm. And that man matched Stefan Stearns exactly.
And breaking news at 6, sources just confirmed to Channel 9 the body of missing 13-year-old Madeline Soto has been found. We have learned that a tip called in after this afternoon's press conference with Orange County Sheriff John Mina led detectives to her body. Law enforcement from several agencies still out at the scene right there off of Hickory Tree Road in Osceola County.
When Maddie Soto's body was finally found, the room went still. Investigators hoped this would bring clarity. But after more than 5 days, the condition of the remains made certainty difficult. Determining the exact cause of death was possible. But proving motive? That would be far harder. And if the theory was true, that Maddie may have been pregnant, time had already worked against them. Tests that could have confirmed it are only reliable for a few days post-mortem, especially with someone so young. Still, the team wasn't ready to close that door. While waiting on the full autopsy report, one detective spotted something buried in the data, an old chat log between Maddie and Stefan. She had asked him to buy something online, a novelty item sold as a coin, but Maddie was 13. That message was now evidence, when stacked next to the photos. The clothing found in her laundry, the medical notes in her mother's handwriting. It painted a picture more disturbing than anyone could stomach, and it gave prosecutors one clear possible motive. She may have been carrying his child. That's when the charges started stacking. 60 criminal counts, including multiple counts of sexual battery, some classified as capital offenses, because some of the abuse dated back to when Maddie was under 12. The evidence was undeniable. Over 1,700 digital files. Stefan's face was visible in several. He was charged with production, possession, and distribution of material involving a minor, some of the most serious crimes under Florida law. And while Florida passed a new law in late 2023, allowing the death penalty in cases involving assault against children under 12, Maddie's abuse began just months before the law took effect. If the timeline had shifted by even weeks, Stefan Stearns could have been facing death row. His trial for Maddie's death is set for September 2025. But investigators aren't done. They've made one thing clear. There's more they know. More than they've released. More than the public has heard. And as they prepare for the courtroom, they're keeping one final card close. Because this case isn't over. Not yet.
With that all said, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Okay, thank you. All right, this is an investigative subpoena, so you've been compelled to be here. And in our country, under the 5th Amendment and the 14th Amendment, as applied to you under the Florida Constitution as well, you cannot be forced to incriminate yourself. So anything you say today can't and won't be used against you unless you just don't tell us the truth. And I've already explained to your attorney, Mr. Bark, whether or not you've made any inconsistent statements in the past, that is dirt under the bridge, and either a misdemeanor was committed or it wasn't, but we're not going to be using that as a basis of some sort of perjury by false statements, because those other charges wouldn't be perjury anyways.
Jennifer Soto was granted full immunity. No charges, no trial, no official reason made public. But one fact was impossible to ignore. Immunity is never given to bystanders. It's offered to those who might be implicated, to those who've seen more than they've admitted, to those whose silence costs too much. And in Jennifer's case, her silence has always spoken louder than her words. Detectives haven't said what she gave them in return. But one thing is clear. Maddie Soto deserved more than what she got. More than the fear. More than the silence. More than the betrayal from the people who were supposed to protect her. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more true crime documentaries. See you in the next video.